Siddhartha Gautama, the man who became the Buddha. Have you ever wondered what true happiness is? Have you ever felt like something was missing in life, even when you had everything? Have you ever searched for meaning beyond material success? If so, then Siddhartha Gautama's journey is for you, because he was born into wealth, luxury, and power, yet he gave it all up in search of a deeper truth. He left behind a kingdom to seek enlightenment. He faced hardship, doubt, and suffering. And in the end, he discovered a path that would change the world forever. This is more than just history. This is the story of a man who unlocked the secret to inner peace and whose wisdom still guides millions today. Let's begin. The prince who had everything, Siddhartha's early life. Siddhartha Gautama was born around 563 BCE in Lumbini, Nepal. But he wasn't born as a wandering monk, he was born a prince. His father, King Suddhodana, ruled the powerful Shakya kingdom. His mother, Queen Maya, had a vision before his birth, a white elephant entering her womb, symbolizing that her child would become a great ruler or a holy man. When Siddhartha was born, a prophecy was made. He would either become a great king or a great spiritual leader. His father, wanting him to rule the kingdom, decided to shield him from all suffering. He was raised in unimaginable luxury. He was surrounded by pleasures, servants, and wealth. He never saw pain, death, or sickness. His father kept all suffering away from him. But deep inside, Siddhartha felt restless. He had everything a man could dream of, and yet he felt like something was missing. And then, one day, he saw the truth of life, and it changed him forever. Coming up next, the foresights, the moment that awakened him. One day, Siddhartha left his palace and saw something he had never seen before. An old man, frail and weak, a sick man suffering in pain, a dead man being mourned by his family, a monk living in peace despite having nothing. In that moment, he realized a life is temporary, beauty fades, wealth disappears, pain is everywhere. And so he made a decision that shocked the world. He would leave everything behind to seek the truth. In the next chapter, we explore how he abandoned his palace in the middle of the night, the struggles he faced as a wandering seeker, the extreme practices that nearly killed him before he found the middle way, the four sights, the moment that awakened him. Have you ever had a moment when everything you believed about life changed in an instant? For Siddhartha Gautama, that moment came when he stepped outside his palace walls for the first time. His father had spent years sheltering him from the harsh realities of life, making sure he never saw pain, suffering, or death. But one day, curiosity led him beyond the palace gates, and what he saw would change him forever. The four sights that shook his soul. As Siddhartha walked through the city, he saw one dar, an old man, frail, weak, his body bent with age. Siddhartha had never seen aging before. He asked his servant, "Will this happen to me?" The answer, "Yes, my prince. No one escapes old age." Two led a sick man, trembling in pain, coughing, suffering. Siddhartha asked, "What is wrong with him?" His servant replied, "He is sick. Illness comes for everyone." Three brought a dead man, lifeless, surrounded by mourning family. Siddhartha asked, "What has happened to him?" His servant said, "He is dead, my prince. We all must die." For a monk, calm, peaceful, with nothing yet content. Siddhartha was amazed. "Who is he?" His servant said, "He is a seeker of truth. He has left behind all desires." For the first time, Siddhartha realized no amount of wealth could stop aging. Of no palace could protect him from sickness. No power could prevent death. Life was fragile, temporary, and filled with suffering. And so he made a decision that shocked the world. The great renunciation, leaving everything behind. That night, as his wife and newborn son slept, Siddhartha made the hardest decision of his life. He removed his royal jewels. He took one final look at his family, and he rode into the darkness, leaving behind his life of luxury forever. He cut his hair, gave up his fine clothes, and became a wandering seeker. His mission? Allied to find the truth about suffering, to discover a path beyond pain, sickness, and death, to unlock the secret to ultimate freedom. But the journey ahead would be brutal, painful, and nearly fatal, because Siddhartha was about to enter a battle between his mind and his body, one that would push him to the edge of death before revealing the greatest truth of all. Coming up next, the extreme path. When Siddhartha almost died, Siddhartha believed that if he could defeat his body, he could defeat suffering. So he pushed himself to unimaginable extremes. He starved himself for months, eating only a grain of rice a day. He slept on cold stone floors, rejecting all comfort. He meditated for hours without moving, battling pain and exhaustion. But instead of enlightenment, he found weakness, suffering, and near death. In the next chapter, we explore the moment he realized extreme suffering was not the answer. The middle way, the balance between pleasure and pain. The night he sat under the Bodhi tree and awakened to the greatest truth of all. The extreme path. When Siddhartha almost died, have you ever pushed yourself to the limit trying to reach a goal? Have you ever thought that sacrificing everything was the only way to find success? Siddhartha Gautama believed that if he could destroy desire, he could destroy suffering. So he made his body a prisoner of his mind. He stopped eating, surviving on a single grain of rice per day. He refused comfort, sleeping on cold stone floors in the wilderness. He meditated for hours without moving, his body growing weaker every day. His ribs became visible. His body shook from hunger. He was on the verge of death. But then he had a life-changing realization. Extreme suffering is not the answer. IA, punishing the body does not free the mind. There must be another way. And so he did something shocking. He let go of his suffering. The middle way, finding balance. As Siddhartha sat by the river, exhausted, a woman approached him. She offered him a bowl of milk and rice, and for the first time in years, he allowed himself to eat. At that moment, something clicked in his mind. If a string is too loose, it won't play. If it's too tight, it will snap. The secret is balance. This was the middle way, neither extreme pleasure nor extreme pain, but a path of wisdom, balance, and inner peace. Re-energized, he knew what he had to do. He would sit under the Bodhi tree and not move until he found enlightenment. And what happened next would change the world forever. Coming up next, the awakening. When Siddhartha became the Buddha. Siddhartha sat in deep meditation, and for 7 days and nights, he faced his greatest test. Dark thoughts and doubts flooded his mind. The demon Mara tempted him with fear and desire, but Siddhartha remained still, unshaken. And then on the 7th day, his mind broke free from illusion. He saw the truth. He had awakened. He had become the Buddha. But what exactly did he realize? In the next chapter, we explore the moment of enlightenment, what Buddha saw about suffering and life, the 4 noble truths, the foundation of all Buddhist teachings, the Eightfold Path, the step-by-step guide to peace and happiness, the awakening. When Siddhartha became the Buddha, have you ever wondered what it feels like to break free from all fear, pain, and doubt, to see the world clearly without illusion, to reach a state of peace that nothing can shake? That is exactly what happened to Siddhartha Gautama on the night of his great awakening. For 7 days and nights, he sat under the Bodhi tree, determined not to move until he had discovered the truth of existence. But before he could reach enlightenment, he had to face one final battle, not against an enemy, but against his own mind. The battle with Mara, the final test. As Siddhartha meditated, he was confronted by Mara, the demon of illusion. Mara was not just a being, he represented fear, temptation, and the darkness within all of us. He whispered, "You are nothing, you will fail. Who do you think you are?" Mara sent terrifying storms, hoping to make Siddhartha afraid. But Siddhartha did not move. Mara sent his beautiful daughters trying to tempt him with desire, but Siddhartha did not move. Mara showed him visions of war and power, offering him control over the world. But Siddhartha did not move. And then, in one final attempt, Mara challenged him, "What proof do you have that you deserve enlightenment?" In response, Siddhartha touched the ground, and the earth itself bore witness to his journey. At that moment, Mara was defeated. And then, as the sun rose, something incredible happened. Siddhartha's mind opened, and he saw the truth of all things. He had awakened. He had become the Buddha's enlightened one. The Four Noble Truths, the secret to ending suffering. In his enlightenment, Buddha discovered four simple but powerful truths. One, life is suffering, dukkha. Pain, loss, and imperfection are part of existence. Two-legged suffering comes from attachment, samadaya. We suffer because we cling to things, money, status, relationships, even life itself. Three, there is a way to end suffering, nirodha. If we let go of attachment, we can be free. Four, the path to freedom is the Eightfold Path, Magga, a step-by-step guide defining peace and enlightenment. Buddha had found the answer, and now he had to share it with the world. Coming up next, the teachings that changed humanity. For the next 45 years, Buddha traveled across India, spreading his teachings of wisdom, compassion, and mindfulness. In the next chapter, we explore how Buddha built a community of monks and followers, the Eightfold Path, a practical guide to living with peace and wisdom. The final days of Buddha and the message he left behind. Buddha had reached enlightenment. Now he was about to change the world forever. The teachings that changed humanity. Reaching enlightenment was just the beginning. Buddha had unlocked the truth about suffering, desire, and inner peace. But what good was wisdom if it was kept to himself? So instead of staying in isolation, Buddha chose to teach. For the next 45 years, he traveled across India, sharing his wisdom with kings, beggars, warriors, and monks alike. His message was simple, but life-changing. You don't need wealth to be happy. You don't need power to find peace. True freedom comes from understanding the mind and letting go of attachment. And to help people follow his path, he laid out a practical guide to enlightenment tone that is still followed by millions today. The Eightfold Path, the road to inner peace. Buddha's teachings weren't just philosophy, they were a blueprint for a better life. The Eightfold Path is a step-by-step guide to achieving wisdom, discipline, and peace. 1, D right view. See the world as it really is, without illusion. 2, lied right intention. Commit to a life of compassion and nonviolence. 3, live right speech. Speak truthfully and avoid harmful words. 4, nyai, right action. Do good, avoid harming others, and live with integrity. 5, livelihood, earn a livelihood. Earn a living in a way that does not harm others. 6, 10, right effort. Train the mind to overcome negativity and cultivate goodness. 7, every mindfulness. Be fully present in every moment. 8, shu, right concentration. Meditate deeply to reach enlightenment. This wasn't a path only for monks, it was for everyone. Whether rich or poor, young or old, anyone could follow these steps and find peace in their own life. And as Buddha traveled, more and more people joined his journey. His followers became monks, teachers, and students of wisdom, spreading his message far and wide. But even the greatest teacher's journey must one day come to an end. Coming up next, Buddha's final days, his last message to the world. At the age of 80, Buddha knew his time was coming to an end. But instead of fearing death, he saw it for what it was, just another part of the cycle of life. In the next chapter, we explore the final teachings of Buddha before he passed away. His last words, a message of wisdom that still guides millions today. The legacy he left behind and how Buddhism spread across the world. Buddha found enlightenment, but his greatest gift was that he showed others how to find it too. Buddha's final days, his last message to the world. Even the greatest teacher must one day say goodbye. At the age of 80, Siddhartha Gautama Buddha knew his time on earth was ending. But unlike most, he did not fear death because he has spent his life understanding impermanence, that everything, including the body, is temporary. So in his final days, he continued to teach, walk, and guide his followers, leaving behind the wisdom that would live on for thousands of years. And when his last moment came, he spoke one final message word so powerful that they are still repeated to this day. Buddha's last words, the final teaching. As he lay on his right side, surrounded by his closest disciples, Buddha remained calm and peaceful. And in his last breath, he spoke these words. All things that exist are subject to change. Strive on with diligence. This was his final lesson. Everything in life is temporary, so do not cling to anything. Do not wait for happiness to come. Work towards inner peace every day. Your journey is in your hands. Seek wisdom, live with kindness, and walk your own path. With that, the Buddha entered parinirvanathi state beyond suffering and rebirth. But though his body was gone, his teachings would never die, because his words, his wisdom, and his example would go on to inspire millions. The legacy of Buddha, how his teachings changed the world. After Buddha's passing, his disciples carried his message to every corner of the world. They spread his teachings across India, China, Japan, and beyond. They preserved his words in scriptures, temples, and traditions. They built a movement that would become one of the greatest spiritual traditions in human history, Buddhism. Today, over 500 million people follow Buddha's teachings, not as a religion of blind faith, but as a path to inner peace, mindfulness, and enlightenment. His message is still as relevant today as it was 2,500 years ago. You don't need wealth or status to be free. Peace is not found outside, it is created within. The answers you seek are already inside you. Buddha was just a man, but his wisdom made him eternal. And his journey proved that any one, no matter where they start, can find a path to enlightenment. Final thoughts? What we can learn from Buddha? Buddha's story is not just history, it is a lesson for all of us. From wealth to wisdom, his life proves that true happiness is not in material things. His search for truth teaches us that questioning everything leads to true understanding. His message of balance reminds us that neither extreme pleasure nor extreme suffering leads to peace. So, what will you take from his journey? Will you continue chasing temporary pleasures? Or will you begin your own path toward wisdom, peace, and understanding? Because the journey to enlightenment does not start in the past. It starts with you, right here, right now. Thank you for watching. If this deep dive into Buddha's life and teachings inspired you, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to our channel, hit the notification bell so you don't miss our next upload. What part of Buddha's story impacted you the most? Let us know in the comments.